breaking late this afternoon. Brand new bombshell reporting from the Wall Street Journal that might explain why Donald Trump appears so anxious and, frankly, flat-footed when it comes to releasing documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. The Wall Street Journal citing senior administration officials in its reporting that when Justice Department officials reviewed what Attorney General Pam Bondi called a, quote, truckload of documents related to Epstein earlier this year, they discovered Donald Trump's name appeared multiple times. From that report, quote, in May, Bondi and her deputy informed the president at a meeting in the White House that his name was in the Epstein files, the official said. Many other high-profile figures were also named, Trump was told. Being mentioned in the records isn't a sign of wrongdoing. The officials said it was a routine briefing that covered a number of topics and that Trump's appearance in the documents wasn't the focus. Now, in response to this reporting in the Wall Street Journal, the White House has issued a statement to NBC News that reads, quote, the fact is that the president kicked him out of his club for being a creep. This is nothing more than a continuation of the fake news stories concocted by the Democrats and the liberal media, just like the Obama-Russiagate scandal, which President Trump was right about, end quote. That is where we start today with some of our favorite reporters and friends. Staff writer at The Atlantic, Jonathan Chait, is here. Also joining us, MSNBC senior political analyst, my colleague Alex Wagner is here, and former top official of the Department of Justice, MSNBC legal analyst Andrew Weissmann is here. Because this story dropped, I want to do a little bit more of letting this sink in for any of our viewers who haven't had a chance to read through it all before I turn this over to all of you. This, importantly, from the Wall Street Journal, which I think days ago found itself on the receiving end of a lawsuit from Donald Trump because of its reporting on this elaborate birthday card and drawing. So important that it's the Journal again out ahead in this story with a new scoop. It reads, Bondi also told the president at this meeting that the Justice Department decided to not release more Jeffrey Epstein documents because of the presence of child pornography and the need to protect victims. Trump and Attorney General Bondi, when the Justice Department reviewed what Attorney General Pam Bondi called this truckload of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein, they discovered Trump's name appeared multiple times, as we reported in May. They informed the president of this. The officials said it was a routine briefing. This is interesting. Quote, they also told Trump that senior Justice Department officials did not plan to release any more documents related to the investigation of the convicted sex offender because the material contained child pornography and victims' personal information. Trump said at the meeting he would defer to the Justice Department's decision to not release any further files. Andrew Weissmann, just take us inside what this reporting is detailing and what it says to you.
Sure. So I think the main issue that people need to focus on is the schizophrenic approach of the Trump administration to this issue. On the one hand, they are saying we want to be as transparent as possible. And on the other hand, they're saying we're not releasing anything. So they, on the transparency part, they say we want to be transparent and we're going to go to court and we're going to ask judges to release grand jury transcripts. Now, they know that the law on that issue is dead set against them, so they can blame the courts when they say no. It's also in grand jury transcripts, the actual proceedings in the grand jury are the area where it's least likely that Donald Trump's name appears. By contrast, the part where they're not turning anything over is all of the voluminous investigative material, which the Wall Street Journal now is reporting, which is something that we sort of assumed had to be true, but now the reporting is it is true, which is that material has Donald Trump's name in it. And of course, shouldn't be surprising because there's so much reporting that the two of them knew each other and socialized with each other. It doesn't mean that Donald Trump committed a crime, but his reaction to this is the thing that's probably the most telling because it certainly is he protests too much. But that material, and this is sort of the take home, I think, for everyone and when I think about this, is that material, the voluminous investigative material that the Department of Justice has, that can be turned over right now, today, this minute. There is no grand jury requirement that you go to court to turn that over. So here, if the Department of Justice and the Trump administration is saying, oh, we want to be transparent, that is information that they don't need to go to the court and turn over. We just saw them do that in the Martin Luther King Jr. files, turning that over. So you really are seeing this continuation of a schizophrenic approach, and the Wall Street Journal reporting gives you certainly a motive for why they are sort of, on the one hand, saying we're going to go to court, and the other hand saying the stuff that's most likely to name Donald Trump, we are not disclosing.
I mean, Alex, we also get a little bit of the timeline filled in. Let me read a little bit more from this new reporting in the Journal. This meeting, they write about, set the stage for the high-profile review to come to an end. Pam Bondi had said in February that Epstein's client list was, quote, sitting on my desk right now to review, end quote. Trump said last week in response to a journalist's question that Bondi had not told him his name was in the files. The administration didn't publicly announce the decision until weeks later, the Journal continues, on July 7th, when the Justice Department posted a memo to its website. The statement, which was unsigned, stated that a thorough review had turned up no list of Epstein's clients, no evidence that would lead to an investigation of uncharged third parties, and no additional documents that merited public disclosure. It said that much of the material would have been sealed in a trial to protect victims and to block the dissemination of child pornography. Your thoughts about how far this reporting goes in filling in some of the blanks?
Well, I mean, I think it's enormously consequential. I think this is a huge stress test for Trump and his coalition, which, you know, it's not all of MAGA, but it is Stewart Rhodes, it is Stephen Bannon, it is Michael Flynn, it is a certain significant portion of his base that is animated by this notion that the deep state and the dismantling of the deep state are job number one for Donald Trump. It's bigger than any tariff war or any social safety net program or even maybe immigration. For them, this is the animating sort of factor in their support for Trump. And it's why Stewart Rhodes said Donald Trump's life was spared during the assassination attempts. He was here to dismantle this elite cabal and open back up our democracy, right? I'm paraphrasing. And they believe so much in that deep state that I think up until this point, maybe even till this article, Nicole, they believe that Trump was shielding the deep state and the elite cabal and not actually maybe just covering his own butt because he was implicated in these Epstein files. And now there is definitive information coming from not the New York Times, not the Washington Post, but Rupert Murdoch's Wall Street Journal, the same man who owns Fox News, that Donald Trump's name is not only in the Epstein files, Donald Trump knew it, and Donald Trump lied to the public about that knowledge. That seems really significant. You say that, and we have this information alongside the Department of Justice reaching out to Ghislaine Maxwell. This would seem to tie their hands greatly in terms of what they can maybe offer her to help them out, because quite obviously it looks now like the president may be trying to hide something to protect himself and his own reputation. And if there is any deal, any pardon, anything with Ghislaine Maxwell, it will be in service to the president's own ends and not that of dismantling the deep state.
Well, it's so interesting, Alex. I mean, you start with Stewart Rhodes. You mentioned Stewart Rhodes, Mike Flynn, and Steve Bannon. They aren't just hardcore Trump. They aren't just hardcore MAGA. They are three recipients of pardons. The only reason they are freely walking the earth is because Donald Trump pardoned those three men. And they are on the other side of Trump and his Justice Department on this story.
Yes, it is an important data point, and it tells you the degree to which, again, this is the banner under which, like, at the expense of their relationship with the president, who they owe their freedom to, this is their cause. The deep state. And Steve Bannon said, look, it's not that he's going to lose. It's not that Trump could lose his entire coalition in the course of this Epstein saga. It's just that he could lose 10 to 15%. And that's enough to lose the House. And that's enough to lose Congress in 2026 and the presidency in 2028. And I think that's real math.
Jonathan, Alex has made this point. We made this point. I mean, it's coming from the Wall Street Journal, I think about 65 hours after the lawsuit wasn't just threatened, but I think filed against the Journal, the journalists, and the parent company and Rupert Murdoch personally. What is the significance of these reporters and this news organization not being intimidated from following the facts wherever they lead?
It's really interesting to me that Donald Trump said openly that he went to Rupert Murdoch to spike the story. Murdoch said he would do it, didn't follow through, or at least indicated to Trump he would do it, which might have been less of a committal response than Murdoch meant to give. Didn't do it. And then Trump held up this fact as if it showed that Murdoch lacks journalistic ethics when really the opposite is the case. In fact, this would actually be a scandal under a normal president, that the president tried to go to a newspaper's owner to spike a damaging story about himself. But I think we should be a little bit cautious about how much the fact that it's the Wall Street Journal and not the Times or the Post is going to carry a weight with Trump's base. Trump has always defined fake news as anything that reports unfavorable facts against him. At times, there have been reporters at Fox News who have broken or confirmed unflattering information for Donald Trump, and he just says they're Trump haters, they're rhinos, it's fake news. And his base will just go along and just say definitionally any facts that Donald Trump doesn't like is fake news regardless of the source.